Well, if you just joined us, we are live from Broadcasting House, and of course this is Base Check, whereby we highlight some of the issues that are taking place in the business world here in Kenya as well as outside our boundaries. My name is O'Brien Kimani. We have been discussing the horticulture industry in Kenya, its current status, the challenges, and of course the opportunities. And you have heard it all from Nathan Lloyd from Overpriced. Time now to shift focus and of course now talk about the micro lending business, if you like it, the digital lenders. You know the noise that has been in this industry with questions regarding regulations as well as predatory lending habits. These issues are being looked into by various regulators. I'm not joined by AnnStella Mumbi. She's a country growth manager for TALA, and she's also a techie, so she knows a thing or two about this industry. Thank you very much, AnnStella, for joining us here. There has been so much that has happened in the last 1 year in this industry. What is the status of the industry as we speak now?
I think there has definitely been a lot happening. In addition to regulation that you already started to talk about, there was the COVID pandemic that really affected all industries, not just the digital lending industry. So if you ask me about the status, I'd say similarly to the economy, everything is kicking up. It's looking hopeful. Even as we're at the cusp of regulation and also as the economy has completely opened up right now, we're feeling optimistic. Yeah.
And optimistic for you means what?
It means that we'll be able to continue operating, and we'll be able to even better scale operations. So that means getting credit and increasing access to credit across the country. So a company like TALA has been in existence for about 7 years in this market. So it just means that we're continuing to serve our customers and even increasing our boundaries, right, and reaching even more Kenyans. Yeah.
The kind of noise that we have been hearing, with the digital lenders, being accused of practicing what would be classified as predatory lending tactics, noise about regulations and so much. Has this somehow dampened your client?
I wouldn't say dampened. I think what you're talking about is very true, right? When we started about 7 years back in the market, we were the market pioneers. However, over that 7-year period, we got about 300 other digital lenders. And, there has been a challenge where, we have digital lenders, particularly members of the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya, who are, prioritizing being responsible lenders and using fair lending and collections practices. And then we've had a few unsavory actors who actually ended up taking up the airwaves and just causing a bit of a challenge in the industry and just not being a safe environment for consumers. However, through some of the work that we have been doing as TALA and also as DILAC, we have continuously increased awareness among consumers to just make it very clear around this is not correct, right? Your family being contacted is not correct, etc. And really highlighting this are the digital lenders that are safe as an option for you to use. So, back to your question around, how has it affected consumers? I think, there was an effect, but, we have been doing everything in our power to sort of counter that. Yeah.
So there was discussion on as to whether the industry should be left to regulate itself, or we should have the intervention of regulators like the Central Bank of Kenya, the Communications Authority of Kenya, coming in to exactly supervise what you are doing. Are you pro-regulations, or what is your position?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I think, as we've maintained across the board, we're fully in support of regulation. We do believe that regulation will come in and help to streamline the industry. And in addition to that, we'll do two key things. One is, just ensure there's a safe operating environment for consumers. That has not been the case, right? And secondly, continue to, by having, good regulation regulation continue to strengthen and cement Kenya's position as a financial leader in the market. So we have that opportunity of setting the pace. So that continues to be true, and I think as we've maintained, and we've actually been part of this process as the bill has been going about, we've just ensured that we're communicating fully around let's have regulation that doesn't stifle the industry, but that continues to propel the growth and the power that tech is bringing into the market. Yeah.
Are you of the opinion that government should regulate the cost of credit among digital lenders?
That's a really good question. I think that becomes a challenge. Just drawing back to a couple of years back in the banking sector, right? We did see some of the effects that came up from pricing caps in general. And for us, we have been very clear around we are against very stringent pricing parameters that make it hard for consumers to continue accessing credit. However, we are open to having these conversations with the regulator to figure out, what is a fair implementation strategy that moves us from, the point that we're at with the CBK Act to a point of compliance and just implementation of the policies. Yeah.
But do you also agree that there are some players within this industry who are exploiting their lenders by offering them loans at an exorbitant rate?
Yes, that would be true, right? And I think if you do look at the DALA members and specifically TALA, one of the things that we're very key about is making it very clear what the terms of the loans are. So charging a single one-time fee and communicating that very clearly to the customer in a way that they understand, so that they know from the moment I take this loan, this is the cost that this loan will incur, and there are no hidden charges to it.
I was going through the credit barometer report that was released by DLAC, whereby they were saying that 30% of borrowers, they have at some point defaulted on paying their loans, and one of the reasons that was cited was because of high interest rates. What should be done to remedy this situation?
That's a good question, and I of course cannot speak to the specific lenders that they had taken that loan from, because I'm not sure. However, I think in terms of innovation, there is something called risk-based pricing, for example. So that is an initiative that a lot of new age digital lenders such as TALA are using, which allows customers to continuously get lower interest rates as they're staying longer with the lender and actually exhibiting good behavior. So such opportunities, for example, with TALA, enable you to get up as low as 5% interest rates, which is the lowest in the market. And
5%, you're talking about monthly or?
Yeah, so we don't think about it as monthly or not. It's per term of the loan, because when you're taking a loan, our tenure is 21 or 30 days. So for that term loan, you get 5% interest rate on that term loan. So
that is, if your loan tenure is between 21 and 30 days, so it means that for 1 month I'm likely to pay an interest rate of about 5%.
Yes, which is extremely revolutionary for the market, right? Because these are loans that are not collateralized in any way, and the underwriting is happening purely off of the data that we're collecting from your phone. So that is a really key fit as compared to other secured loans that are being offered in the market.
So if you're offering your loans at a return of 5%, I mean, in an industry whereby SACCOs will offer the same at 1% and banks will do the same at 1.4%, I mean, don't you think the digital lenders are overly outpriced in this market? Yeah,
no, so that's why I'd correct you and just clarify. So SACCOs, they're giving you credit off of the deposit that you have with them, similarly to banks. So when you come to a digital lender such as TALA, taking the level of risk that this lending is offering, that is actually quite an okay rate, because we don't take any deposits. We're not asking you for a guarantor. We're not asking you for any collateral. So you can see the level of risk that the business is taking up. So, if you compare that to, a bank or, a SACCO that has, hundreds of thousands in your savings and, at that point considers you to be a much lower credit risk, then you can see those are not comparable. It's not an apples to apples comparison.
And the other reason being the fact that, you don't go into specifics as to why I want to borrow. Do you do that?
Not necessarily. So, why you're borrowing is not a factor around, why we give you credit. However, one thing I'd want to mention there is, we do know that over 60% of people borrowing from TALA currently are micro and small businesses. So these are people who need quick funds to inject into their businesses on a day-to-day basis or on a monthly basis to enable them to have cash flow, buy inventory, etc. So, at least we know that that's a primary use case for our loans. Yeah, because according to that report whereby you had about almost 20% of people borrowing just to provide for their families, and isn't this a flag, a red flag, when you have a situation whereby people are borrowing, to buy luxurious things like, chairs and all these, and also buying food, isn't this a red flag, that cause the industry, to rethink their lending models? Yeah, no, but so, I wouldn't think of it in that sort of simple way. So in most cases, when someone says, I'm borrowing to cater for my family, that could be for a couple of reasons, right? So it could be one, they're probably running a business, a payment is delayed. They need something to help cushion the blow at this point. Two, it could be, they've had a shock on their income, right? They probably lost a job, as was the case in COVID. Or, the business has taken a hit in terms of sales. So, in such instances, this is the divide digital lending is bridging. And I don't think it's more around, kind of taking advantage of situations, but it's actually more around how do we enable people to continue being able to continue with their lives, being able to provide for their families, being able to take the children to school, despite the everyday happenings in life, right? Which we've probably also experienced, right? Since income can tend to fluctuate.
It is proper to say that, there are players in the market who mean well for the society, who mean well for their clients. And just like any other industry, there are bad apples. So as an industry, how would you deal with the bad apples that are messing up with the ointment?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think what we've traditionally done, and especially under DLAC, has been one, putting out very clear statements to our users, calling out specific lenders who are using unsavory practices, and having that on the local dailies, having that on our social media pages, and continuing consumer education. So, the role that we can play is just primarily, how do we consistently ensure clients and consumers and Kenyans are aware of who's safe versus not, and what should you expect from your lenders, right? This is, for example, with TALA, we're very, very keen on continuing to be a market leader when it comes to responsible lending and making that very, very clear month on month. So probably one last example I'll give you there is, each year during the month of March, we run an event called Money March. So for the entire month, we do a lot of consumer education under all the digital lenders and also the DLAC umbrella, to just educate consumers on, this is what you should expect, this is what fair collection and lending looks like, and this is the power that credit has when used effectively, even by yourself in your day-to-day life. Yeah.
And when I was going through that report by DLAC, on a credit barometer, and when it says that, out of the 1,000, almost 200 people that, were surveyed, when you have a situation whereby 8% of them saying that, they had reduced income, at a time when COVID ravaged this economy and thousands of people were rendered jobless, does it reflect the reality on the ground?
Completely does. Completely does. We did see, a big impact on, consumers' income, and more specifically among MSMEs, right? Because the economy closed, you couldn't go outside, that brought a huge challenge. And specifically as TALA on our end, we asked ourselves, how can we be there for businesses and help them to rebuild, even as we're rebuilding as a business. And for example, this year we launched the Jijenge and TALA grant program, where we're offering non-refundable grants and business skills training for free to businesses that are affected by COVID, with the goal of just getting them back on their feet. Yeah.
One of the issues that has been highlighted as the reason why you're having so many people defaulting on their loan repayment is because people have not been sensitized on proper use of their loans. As lenders, are you picking up this issue?
Yeah, and I think TALA is actually the only digital lending app that has a land center within the app. So in our land center, what we do is really prioritize financial education for our consumers. So teaching them about how to save, how to invest, how to borrow responsibly, and we know that becomes part of the factors that we're starting to also include internally in our algorithms, right? Around how do we effectively ensure that consumers can and are able to borrow and still maintain their livelihoods. Yeah,
because you have a situation whereby companies, they have acquired illegally, contacts and data of very many Kenyans, and they're using these, to advance their loan agenda. As an industry, what is your position on this?
Yeah, so for us, we're very, very key on data protection and data privacy, and that is one of our key pillars. And even as with the new Data Protection Act going live, those are one of the things that were very key to ensure that we're in full compliance. And one of the things that we want to ensure is customers have agency over their data, and what that means is if you get on our app, in addition to giving us explicit permission and consent, you really understand what you're consenting to, because it's a two-part problem, right? So making sure that customers understand that if we're requesting access to your SMSs, we're very clear on why we need that data, and we're making that clear to you as a consumer, and you can say yes or no. So and that has not, of course, been the case across the board, but those are some of the things that we need to streamline as an industry, and we're working on. Yeah,
very good. And you believe that the proposed regulations will be able to deal with this?
Yes, most definitely.
Very good. Our conversation this morning revolves around the micro lenders, the regulations, and of course the way forward. We are doing things in the company of AnnStella Mumbi, who is the country growth manager for TALA. This is Base Check. We're taking a short break, and thereafter we'll be back with more conversations. Stay right here. Welcome back. You're watching KBC Channel 1 live from Broadcasting House. This morning, we're having great conversation here around micro lending and what is their position in the market, and how do you bring about proper regulations. We've been talking to AnnStella Mumbi. She's the country growth manager for TALA. And also now joining us is Peter Macharia, Managing Director at Jijenge Credit. All of them are in the business of selling money. Yes, you're right. Thank you very much indeed, Macharia, for joining us. Where do you classify? You're not a bank, you're not a SACCO, you're not a micro lender. Where do you fall in this whole ecosystem?
Thank you very much, O'Brien, and for our viewers. Jijenge Credit falls in that the lowest segment of a financial institution. That is a non-deposit taking microfinance. Because for us to go to the next stage, you need to deposit 100 million with central bank so that you can be allowed to take deposits. And thereafter, if you want to become a bank, we deposit a billion with central bank to be a fully fledged bank. That is Jijenge Bank. God willing.
God willing.
Yes.
You see, for micro lenders, I mean, they use artificial intelligence, big data, to analyze and, of course, give credit scores to their clients.
Yes.
What kind of information do you use? I mean, when you're gauging between who to lend to and who not to lend to?
Thank you very much. As at Jijenge, we are still using the traditional methods of lending, which I believe most banks are using. But we still embrace some technology because we do credit analysis, which enables us to ensure and verify that the amount borrowed and the borrower has the capacity to repay back the funds. Because lending is very easy. Giving out money, it's very easy. Even here in this studio, if you just say that you are about to lend, there will be a whole queue here. But the question is, and that is where the rubber meets the road, do they have the ability to pay back? Yes.
What is the default rate in your industry?
We ensure that we maintain the CBK parameters, that is a PR of 5%. But on our end, we give ourselves 3%. We try to maintain it as low as possible. Yeah, because most of our funds are fully secured. Our interest rates are lower than the digital lenders. Yes.
So, because for you, I mean, all your loans are not collateralized in the sense that you don't ask for security, to offer your loans. So, what happens in the instance that I default on, I decide not to pay?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think, first thing that we do have as a company is a grace period that we give our customers. After, the due date actually gets to it, we give them a grace period to just allow them to repay, right? Because there are quite a number of shocks that the consumers could have had. After the grace period ends, then we charge a one-time fee of 8% late fee. And for that fee that we charge, whether you repay, in 30 days or in 365 days, it is a flat fee. So, your loan will not continue to compound interest. And after that, then we're able to work with our in-house collections team to just figure out what a payment plan could look like. It could be that, you really, a lot of customers are actually very well intentioned. However, life happens. So if life has happened, then let's talk about it. Let's figure out how you can repair so that we ensure you remain in our good books. Yeah.
Jijenge, I mean, if I borrow and I don't pay, what measures do you take in place before you can finally auction my security?
Thank you. The first thing we do as an organization is we give you a demand letter. Then, rather the first demand letter. Then we give you the second demand letter after a month. Then after another month, another demand letter. After the third demand letter, we hand over the facility to our debt collection and legal team. Then they officially, it's our lawyers and the auctioneers. On the third month, the first day of the first month, the third month, they visit you. Then they give you a document called a proclamation document, which is like a notice for another 1 week to tell you that you failed to pay your loan for the last 3 or so months, and you're being reminded. But now, in the presence of now the lawyer and the auctioneer, you're being reminded to.
So that is like a threat letter.
No,
if you do not pay, we are going now to seize your property and sell it.
The first 3 demand letters. Actually, the proclamation now is an actual threat, because the others are polite reminders.
But you need to pay.
You need to pay. That is on the 4th month. By the 4th month.
Of default.
Of default, yeah.
And so when you look at your procedures, vis-a-vis are the ones that are taken by banks, commercial banks. I mean, there's no much difference.
There's no much difference.
For you do not have this kind of procedures. So your industry, you're at a very high risk, business-wise, right?
Yeah, and I think, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? Because by virtue of offering unsecured loans, as TALA, we're taking up all the risk as a company. And, that is where, we really rely on our machine learning models and algorithms to really assess credit risk. And be able to understand, what is the likelihood of this customer paying us back, and just to ensure that we're still able to continue operating as a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As lenders, I mean, what a lot of people do not realize is that you're in business, and you're in the business of making profit. You're not in business of giving free money. It's I sell to you my money, and then you return it, at an interest rate. So how do you instill this sense in people's minds so that when I'm borrowing, I just like in commercial banks, I mean, I will not just go into a bank and ask for money and I'm given. I mean, they have to do a lot of due diligence and know your customer backgrounds and all that. So as micro lenders, as Jijenge, what do you need to do to highlight the fact that you're in the business just like any other business and you're in the business of making profit?
That's an interesting one, right? I think, that is true for us. However, in addition to that, as TALA, we're also a very strongly mission-led company, right? Our founder was actually working at the UNDP when they started TALA, and our mission is always, increasing access to credit. And how the type of relationship that we want to build with our consumers is more of where they understand that, paying TALA back enables me to be able to access this credit later. Number one, and number two, ensures that TALA can continue being there for me when I need it the most. So, TALA, one of the things that I find to be quite interesting is people think of TALA as a friend that they can, call at midnight when they need to rush their kids to hospital, or, when they need to, just keep things at status quo while they're waiting a payment for their business. And, I think for us, maintaining that one-on-one relationship and close relationship with our customers ensures that they understand the importance of repaying us and continuing to have a good relationship with us. Yeah.
And how do you cultivate that culture?
That's the beauty of it. We have been in the market for 7 years, and our customers have grown with us since we started. And when it comes to how we cultivate this culture, it's just how we communicate with them, right? If you look at our social media pages, if you look at how we, any messages that people get from TALA, we understand that it is a reciprocal relationship, and we have to ensure that respect moves back and forth. That's number one. And number two, it's just, continuously showing our customers that they can grow with us. So, our tagline is literally, let's grow together. So, they understand that, as we're growing as a business, we're also figuring out how do we grow with you as a consumer.
Jijenge, yes. Do you have any aspirations of becoming a bank? Would you want to become a commercial bank?
Definitely, that's our prayer, that's our strategy. That's why if you look at our growth model, we've been growing gradually, and the numbers we are currently looking at, since we started that 7 years ago, we are now at slightly over 20,000 customers, which is a very good and impressive base. And our tagline is very clear. We empowering your business, and our niche is the MSMEs. Those are primarily the small businesses and upcoming businesses, and at some point startups. And I would like to take a step back to your question. What enables us to ensure that the customer knows that we're in business when we are lending money? We have a very elaborate application form, and we ensure that there is that physical touch between our customers and our staff. That presence, that process of filling the application form, and at some point the loan agreement, or rather the offer letter, it gives you, there are some questions that we will analyze and see. If, for example, you put the reason for the loan application as gambling, we surely don't lend to you. Yeah.
So, and that is a know your customer background research that you do.
Exactly.
As TALA, or as a micro lender, I mean, is it your desire to become a commercial bank?
That's an interesting one. For us, I wouldn't be able to say yes or no at this point, but I think our mission, and especially with the new TALA, Series E funding that we just raised, we're very keen to become a global leader and the largest, financial service provider for the underbanked. So that looks like many different things, and we're still in the process of defining what that looks like. However, we want to be able to ensure that in addition to credit, that in future customers can be able to save with TALA, invest with TALA, get insurance with TALA, just become a full service financial provider for the people who've been left out of the formal economy.
But you can't do all those services. I mean, you can't offer all those services being a digital lender. I mean, at some point you have to grow your wings and spread them and fly.
Yeah.
But you would want to fly to where?
When you say fly to where, are you referring to in terms of your first question around being a digital bank? Like that is in part true, and we would be keen to explore that. So I'm not able to share too much right now because we're still in the process of figuring that out. But in part, for us, our goal remains to be what I just shared, right? We're looking to become a full service financial provider for the underbanked, and that remains true for Kenya and also the other markets in which TALA is.
But it is your desire to outgrow your current business model.
I wouldn't say outgrow it, but complement it. So outgrow. We'll primarily always be offering credit. That is the DNA and the genesis of who we are. It's a mission behind which we were formed, right? Increasing access to credit. However, we want to figure out how else can we complement the lives of our customers. They have all these other needs, and for them to be full, whole, financially healthy beings, then what else do we need to provide to them and ensure they have access to? Yeah.
Macharia, do you believe there's a place for micro lenders in this economy?
Definitely there's a place, because you can't wish technology away. And then matters finance, matters money. They've been there since even before Christ, when they used to trade with gold and diamond and do barter trade. That was that was economic development for that time. So currently we can't wish micro lenders away. It's a very major part of our society. Yes.
As somebody who has a tremendous amount of wealth in banking and of course in the business of lending and of course borrowing, what needs to be done to bring proper regulations in this industry? Because again, we also have to be very careful, because over regulation can kill an industry. So what do we need to do to bring proper regulations in this industry so that we can weed out rogue players?
Well, let me start by saying that most of what needs to be done has been done. We've got some very stable and very good leadership from all the way from the governor, central bank. We have very good organizations, corporations that are overseeing and overlooking the financial industry, that is KDIC. We have also another major player that is also very well managed and doing some very good work. That is the there's a financial unit that handles caters for or takes care of money laundering and fraudulent transactions. Financial Reporting Center, that's the correct name. And of course the Ministry of Finance, they're also overlooking and ensuring that all the players and the economy at large is very well managed. And in terms of regulation, whatever they've done so far is good, because we don't need to be micromanaged, because once the financial industry is not well managed, it can bring down the entire economy. And it's supposed to self-regulate itself, so that players who are not up to their task, they will lose customers and they will naturally die a natural death. Yes.
How long does it take, especially like in your case, how long does it take by the time I apply for a loan before the same is disbursed?
That's a very good question, O'Brien. We disburse our funds within 1 hour. It's a first in the industry. And
That is, if you have all the documents in place.
The customers walked into our offices at 8 today, and they made the applications and they presented all the necessary documents. Their accounts are already funded.
What are those documents?
That's basic requirements like the national ID, KRA PIN, bank statement, 6 months bank statement, 6 months M-Pesa statement, of course the security. But that one applies to the logbook facilities only. And now you fill the application form, and the agreement form is signed and witnessed by a lawyer. And the asset is valued. We have in-house valuers, and within an hour, whichever part of the country you are in, you are sorted.
And for you, I mean, does it take the same amount of time?
No, so I think one of the beauty and advantages that we have is technology. So, from the moment you apply, it takes us maximum of 5 minutes to disburse the loan. So, that is, one of the key revolutions that we had, right? Because, if you have an emergency, within 5 minutes of you requesting for your loan, you have it in your M-Pesa. So, that is one of the key innovation points on our end. Yeah.
Before we go to the Kenya School of Government, I want to hear from you. Yes. Is there any lesson that you believe you can learn from micro-lenders that you can use, to make your work even simpler and faster?
True. There is plenty that I can learn from TALA, especially on that aspect of efficiency. We would like to move from processing a facility from 1 hour to their 5 minutes. Because what I've realized in most of the borrowings, most of our customers, more than 50%, they never plan their finances. So in most of the cases, it's an emergency. Somebody wakes up, he walks maybe he bumps into a LPO, and he needs money like yesterday.
And they'll get it. Very good. We now want to take you to the Kenya School of Government, where the Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Health, they are meeting to update the country on the implementation of the bilateral agreement between the Government of Kenya and the United Kingdom for collaboration on healthcare workforce. Let's first of all listen in.
Considering we are from the Commonwealth and our mode of instruction is English, give us a very good opportunity for our skilled labor, beginning with you, the nurses. We have now engaged with the United Kingdom on many other skills or many other sectors beyond the nurses. But the most important, their highest priority was nursing, to address the shortage of nursing workers in UK. As stated by our Director of Planning, we have about 7 regions with 233 trusts employing over 1.2 million medical workers in UK. And this gives you a huge opportunity. They have a shortage of about 62,000 nurses this year, running for almost 3 years. And Kenya negotiated successfully for a third of that, 20,000 nurses, which we signed in July. And we went back last month, together with the technical officers, to engage them on now the terms and conditions and responsibilities, because we want to secure a safe, orderly migration to ensure that your working environment in UK is safe and secure. And therefore, whatever I'll be stating in my speech will be affirming our discussions of what we have done, and also giving you our government expectation, because you are the pioneer group living for this, taking over this opportunity, which is a national opportunity for all Kenyans who are going to, there are many Kenyans who will come after you. You are going to go to UK, those who will succeed for a term of 1 or 2 term of 3 years each. And depending on your working and your working culture, attitude, commitment, passion for work, you have the opportunity, you have a chance to extend. The UK themselves will have an opportunity to reconsider your status. You could even be given resident status, depending on your commitment to work. So UK, as some of the world's leading hospitals, it has the best practices and centers that offer great professional development opportunities. And at the same time, working with great people, nurses are adequately compensated for their position depending on the band. And we were able to negotiate for you to enter at band 5, which is diploma and above. Band 6 would now be those who will upgrade their following maybe completion of the appraisal. And that band 5, you're talking about £2,300, which is almost 300,000 Kenya shillings. Of course, life in UK is not cheap. So while you are earning that much, you have also a huge cost of upkeep. But we were able to negotiate some introductory support by the NHS. So now, before I speak or I go deep into my speech, there are things that we would want to inculcate in you as you live. As we say, you are our flag carriers. You are our pioneers. You are our firstborn. You carry alongside you the highest expectation from the government and the people of Kenya. And therefore, I know PS TUM and the Medical Training College, you've been told about the 6 C's of nursing. And I think if you kept those 6 C's, that is care, compassion, courage, communication, commitment, and competence, I have no doubt in my mind that you will deliver the best service. That there will be, your arrival in UK will prompt a huge demand for Kenyan nurses. Your arrival in UK will give us pride anytime any person from Kenya is engaging anybody from Britain. So we look up to you. We look up to you. Good communication means approaching every patient, interacting with a good intention to understand the patient concerns, experience, and opinions, verbal and non-verbal. Skills alongside listening and also giving feedback.
Well, that is Labour CS Simon Chelugui giving an update on the bilateral relations between Kenya and the United Kingdom on healthcare services. And of course, we have heard it from him. A number of nurses are on their way to the United Kingdom to practice there. And of course, that was an update. Let's come back to the studio so that we can close the discussion that we have been having in the last 1 hour on micro lending, the role of micro lenders and regulations. And of course, AnnStella Mumbi is a country growth manager for TALA, and Peter Macharia is a managing director for Jijenge Credit. Because we have come to the end of this interview, I mean, where do you see this industry, the micro lending business, in the next 5 years?
That's a really, really good question. For us, I think the goal remains to be how many more Kenyans we can be able to reach. So for example, with TALA in Kenya today, we've reached up to 3 million Kenyans, and we really want to continue, increasing access to credit. and innovating, to figure out other ways to go about barriers such as smartphone penetration and internet access. So, for us, and where we see digital lenders being, becoming the foothold of access to credit in the Kenyan market, and becoming, that quote-unquote friend that Kenyans can rely on when they're having emergencies, or when they, just require extra funds to keep their businesses running or to meet some family needs. Yeah.
What about Jijenge credit?
Yes, we expect to be maybe a deposit-taking microfinance in the next 5 years, and probably in the next 10 years we can be a fully-fledged bank. But as I've said, we'll borrow a leaf from TALA and embrace technology so that we can blend traditional banking and technology together to serve as many Kenyans within Kenya and maybe the region as possible. Yes.
Are you planning to go paperless?
Yes. Yeah, we need, just as I've said, technology is something that we can't wish away. And on our part, paperless banking helps a lot because we avoid huge releasing huge storage spaces. Yeah.
Very good. Lady and a gentleman, thank you very much indeed for finding time to be with us here, and of course sharing your insight with us. Asante sana. Well, our conversation has been on micro lending business, the future, and as well as the current opportunities and challenges, and of course you have heard it from the team in the studio. Well, remember, our conversation continues. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Kurunzi is coming up next, which is a Swahili version of Bischek. So you need to stay right here. Asante sana for your time. Have a good afternoon.